Understanding that nothing is ever perfect, but the challenge is try to get them as perfect as they can be. And what can you do? It's in your control, so control what you can. I had a summer where I played basketball when I was like 10 or 11 years old, playing, and I don't score 1 point the entire summer.
Really?
Not one.
How old were you?
11, 10, 11.
And you're playing against other 10, 11-year-olds, or you didn't score once?
Not one.
Were you in the game?
I was in the game.
How did you not score?
Because I was terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
At 10, 11 years old, you were that terrible.
Awful. And I scored not a free throw, nothing, not a lucky shot, not a breakaway layup, 0 points. And I remember crying about it and being upset about it. And my father just gave me a hug and said, listen, whether you score 0 or score 60, I'm going to love you no matter what.
Wow.
Now that is the most important thing that you can say to a child. Because from there, I was like, okay, that gives me all the confidence in the world to fail. I have the security there. But to hell with that, I'm scoring 60. Let's go.
Right.
And from there, I just went to work. And I stayed with it, and I kept practicing. I think that's when the idea of understanding a long-term view became important. Because I wasn't going to catch these kids in a week. I wasn't going to catch them in a year, right? So that's when I sat down and said, okay, this is going to take some thought, right? What do I want to work on first? All right, shooting. All right, let's knock this out. Let's focus on this. Half a year, 6 months, do nothing but shoot. Right, after that, all right, creating your own shot, and then you focus. So I started creating a menu of things. Summer came back.
You scored.
Next summer, I was a little better. I scored.
Yeah,
it wasn't much, but I scored.
And this is 12, 13.
12, 13. And then 14 came around, back half of 13, 14 years old, and then I was just killing everyone. And it happened in 2 years. And I wasn't expecting it to happen in 2 years, but it did, because what I had to do was work on the basics and the fundamentals. While they relied on their athleticism and their natural ability. And because I stick to the fundamentals, it just caught up to them. And then my body, my knees stopped hurting. I grew into my frame.
And then your athleticism, once you have the fundamentals,
Exactly.
the hard work, the mindset, and you tack on the athleticism, it's game over.
Then it was game over.
Wow.
Like right when I was turning 14, I became the best player in the state.
At 14?
At 14.
So from 12 to 14, you went from scoring 0 to being the best in the state of all ages.
Yep. But it's simple. Like if you do the math on this, right? Like if you're thinking about how often kids are playing, right? I tell this to my daughter and my daughter's team as well that I coach. It's a simple thing of math. If you want to be a great player, if you play every single day, 2-3 hours, every single day, over the course of a year, how much better are you getting? Most kids will play maybe, an hour and a half, 2 days a week.
Right.
Do the math on that.
It's
not going to get it done. It's not going to get it done, right? So if you're obsessively training 2-3 hours every single day over a year, over 2 years,
you're accelerating.
You make quantum leaps, man. Go up every single day, do the work.
But you have this Mamba mentality. Your book's coming out soon, and how did you develop this? There's a beautiful story that I love from Jay Williams. I don't know if you remember Jay Williams, where he did an interview a while back, and he talked about how when he played you, I think the first time, or one of the first times he played against you, he was like, I'm going to show up so early to the court to warm up and practice, like before anyone.
Yeah.
And he shows up at the court. I don't know if it was in LA or where it was, and you were the only one there. Already shooting free throws, already doing your fundamentals. And he goes, I'm going to stay here until Kobe leaves. And then he was like, gosh, an hour and a half, 2 hours later,
I got to go.
I'm tired. And Kobe's still shooting free throws, scoring, like just going over the fundamentals. And he goes, and then we played that game and you were lights out, and he came up to you afterwards and said, like, dude, why were you in there for so long, and how'd you do it? And he said, this is what he said, I knew you were watching, and I wanted to show you that I was willing to outwork you.
Right.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this.
I remember that.
You remember, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was so powerful that you have this mindset, but how did you develop that?
It started in middle school and high school, because a lot of the kids that I was playing against were inner city kids. And so they're looking at me as if, okay, this kid's soft, right? He's from the suburbs of Philadelphia. His father played in the NBA, played professionally.
He's got it easy. Going on second, all this other stuff, right? And so they felt like they could try to be physical or try to intimidate me and do all this other stuff, which they couldn't, right? But now I'm saying, okay, well, you're trying to attack me. How am I going to attack you? How can I mentally figure out ways to break you down? How can I show you that, no, I have the edge, right? And so that's when it first started for me, is figuring out how to get the upper hand on an opponent that way. But what does losing feel like to you?
It's exciting.
Why is it exciting? because it means you have different ways to get better. There's certain things that you can figure out that you can take advantage of, right? Certain weaknesses that were exposed that you need to shore up, right? So it was exciting. I mean, it sucks to lose,
Right.
but at the same time, there are answers there if you just look at them.
Because you get the information from losing more than from winning, probably.
Yeah. I mean, the answers are there when you win too. You just have to look at them,
Yeah.
right? So it's a constant process. It's exciting when you win. It's exciting when you lose because the process should be exactly the same, whether you win or you lose. As you go back and you look and you find things that you could have done better, you find things that you've done well that worked. You figure out how did they work, why did they work, and how can you make them work again.
Yeah.
And but the hardest thing is to face that stuff. That's a really, really tough challenge. You look at it and say, oh, there's the mismatch. Oh, there's the gap. You know, and all those little things, and it sucks. But you don't want to have that feeling again, do you? Right? So you got to really study it, face it. And not to say you'll win the next time you face it, but at least you'll give yourself a better chance.
What was your routine and ritual like after every game? Would you watch almost every game over or certain games?
All of them.
Every game you
Every game.
watch?
Every game.
The whole game
The
back?
whole game.
No way.
It taught me to look at detail. Right? Look at things at their smallest. You gotta learn, man. What could we have done differently? Right? I mean, it's an obsessiveness that comes along with it. You want things to be as perfect as they can be, understanding that nothing is ever perfect. But the challenge is try to get them as perfect as they can be. And what can you do? It's in your control. So control what you can. I can watch film all day long. It's going to help me
Get better.
Yes. There's a quote from one of my English teachers at Lower Merion named Mr. Fisk. He had a great quote that said, "Rest at the end, not in the middle." And that's something I always live by. You know, I'm not going to rest now. I'm going to keep on pushing now. There are a lot of answers that I don't have, even questions that I don't have. But I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going, and I'll figure these things out as we go, right? And you just continue to build that way. So I try to live by that all the time.
Rest at the end.
Rest at the end. I don't want to hear your whining. I don't want to hear it. Don't
No
tell
excuses.
Don't tell me how rough the water is. Just bring the boat in. You know, I don't want to hear it.